Welcome to the UK Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is the founder of the UK Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. In this podcast, Tracy shares destination guides, travel tips, and itinerary ideas, as well as interviews with a variety of guests who share their knowledge and experience of UK travel to help you plan your perfect UK vacation. Join us as we explore the UK from cosmopolitan cities to quaint villages, from historic castles to beautiful islands, and from the picturesque countryside to seaside towns.
Hi, and welcome to the UK Travel Planning Podcast. This week, Doug and I are both here.
Hello.
To chat about our favourite experiences from our trip to the UK this summer. So it was pretty difficult. Went down to 10, wasn't it?
It was very, very difficult. Yeah.
It took us a while to do it, and we've chosen experiences because obviously we talk a lot about destinations, but we want to talk about actually the experience that you can have at some of these destinations and the experiences themselves. So the first one we both agreed on, didn't we?
We did, yeah. It was St Michael's Mount in Cornwall.
Yes, so St Michael's Mount is a tidal island based off the south coast of Cornwall, and you have to book to go there. It's and pay to go over to the island. If you book while obviously the sea is out, you can walk across the causeway to the island. But if the sea is in, which it was the day that we went, you have to catch a boat, which is all part of the experience. And I would highly recommend, if you can, that depending on the tides, because obviously that's what you've got to go about when you book, you can get the boat over and walk back on the causeway, which is exactly what happened the day that we went.
That's right. We also should say we're incredibly lucky with the weather. It wasn't windy. It was a lovely hot summer's day.
It was a very, very lovely day. And so when we got across to the island, because it was quite early when we went, we did go to the island cafe, had a cup of tea and a croissant before we set off to explore the island. So it's not huge. But one part I would absolutely encourage everybody to buy tickets to go to, and you do need a ticket, is the terraced garden, which is something incredibly special.
Yeah, they've got it's unusual for the UK, they've got Mediterranean type plants and cactus plants,
I think so, yeah.
But it's just not plants, vegetation you'd expect in the UK.
No, and the views across to Marazion and just the views across to the sea are really spectacular, especially if you go on a beautiful sunny day, which we did. And you actually walked up to the house castle, didn't you?
Yes, I walked all the way up. I was quite fortunate because I was on my own. I ended up talking to an English family with their two boys, and they sort of adopted me for an hour. And so we walked round together.
Yeah,
it was a lovely experience. They were very friendly. I think they were staying. I think they were staying in all their 2-week vacation. They were staying in Cornwall.
Oh, okay.
And that was the one item that they were looking forward to as much as anything else.
I think it's a real bucket list destination for many visitors to the UK, and definitely highly recommend it. You do have to book in advance. Do check the tides. I will put some photographs on of St Michael's Mount the day that we visited. And I would really recommend, if you can, to get the boat over, the boat back, because obviously whichever way, and walk one way. It was lovely because you just walk, when you park your car, walk along the beach to a meeting point, and there's lots of boats. It takes about 5 minutes in the boat to get yourself over to the island.
It does. And what was really good about the boat trip, you went slightly away from the island, so you got views that you might not usually see.
That's it. Spectacular views. And we also had a little dog in our boat, didn't we?
It did. It wasn't guests going across with the dog. It was
the boat owner.
The boat owner.
Yeah, boat owner. Yeah. So again, it's just a lovely experience and something that I look back on. So while Doug went up to the castle, I have to say I just sat on the grass and enjoyed the weather and the views,
and the ice cream.
And the ice cream. Yes, that's absolutely. So our second favourite experience when we're in the UK was to go on the Jacobite train. So we're going all the way from Cornwall, all the way up to the Highlands of Scotland, to Fort William. The Jacobite train is well known as also the Harry Potter train. So the train that takes you to Hogwarts and across the Glenfinnan Viaduct. So again, this is an experience which you have to book in advance. In fact, I booked in November for May because it gets fully booked. We went over first class, didn't we? So it was a lovely, lovely experience.
Oh, it was so special, being Harry Potter fans as well, and big train fan and a steam train fan. It ticked so many boxes. And you didn't tell me you were booking it, did you?
No, it was a surprise, yes. And the weather wasn't the best on that day. So we did that in May. I think it was about like May the 23rd. We did that. We were in Scotland. And we did have the weather in Scotland in May unusually was quite rainy. But the day that we went, it was still spectacular. The views were amazing. And so basically you get on the train at Fort William. It's a return trip. So it takes you all the way through to Mallaig. And when you get there, you have about 2 hours. I would say 2 hours there. Make sure that you head straight to have one of the restaurants for lunch, because they do get busy because everybody gets off the train. You have about 2 hours. You can go on a little boat trip from the harbour as well. I think they also run at the same time, obviously, to coincide with the train. Spend a couple of hours there, and then you do the return back to Fort William. So obviously crossing the Glenfinnan Viaduct twice.
Yeah, and what a little tip for that one is we booked the early train, and the train runs twice daily. By the time the second train goes out, we've already got off the train, got into our car, and we drove back to Glenfinnan Viaduct, and we went to the viewing points, and so we could actually film and take photos of the next service going over the viaduct from a different viewpoint.
And so I kind of stood below looking up at the viaduct, and I think I thought I was being a bit lazy this holiday. Yeah. And then you actually walked up to the hill up above. You were talking to an American couple, weren't you? Yeah?
Yes, I met a lovely couple from America. After about 10 minutes talking to them, I felt like I'd known them my whole life. They were such a lovely, engaging couple, and we found so much common ground, not just the Jacobite and Scotland, but it was just a lovely experience. So we waited the train for about an hour.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it was 2 minutes.
Yeah, and then it was raining on and off as well.
It was raining, it was windy, it was cold. But it's Scotland.
I was glad that I had my rain jacket, because I was kind of standing on my own underneath the viaduct. But I got some really good video and some really good photos. And it's really special when you've been on that train in the morning to then see it in the afternoon. And we often get asked in our UK and London travel planning Facebook community whether it's worth it, and I would say 100% it's worth it. It was, I say, it's number 2 on our list of experiences from when we were over in the UK, and I know I have not heard anybody say that they didn't thoroughly enjoy it. And I have to say that the scenery and views are spectacular,
and it covers age ranges. Yeah, and so many different interests. It ticks so many boxes for so many different people. Everybody was just having a great time.
Yeah, and so we're going from now, the Highlands of Scotland, we're going back down to England, and somewhere that I've been wanting to go to for quite a long time, and Doug's also a fan of Downton Abbey, so we went to Highclere Castle. Unfortunately, the day that we went there happened to be the day in the UK when it was 42 degrees this summer, so it was extremely hot, but Highclere was another highlight, an excellent experience. We actually drove there, and the car park is right next to the castle, so you don't have very far to walk.
Nope, and it's all on the flat as well, so anybody with any mobility issues find it a bit difficult. It's just so easy.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable, and then you go on a part of it is to go on a tour of the house, and if you're a Downton Abbey fan, it's magical. Now, you can't take photographs in there because obviously it is a private house as well, but they have got stills of the TV series and the movies, so in each of the rooms, and obviously the rooms just look exactly like they do in Downton Abbey, and it was great to kind of go, I remember when this scene happened there, or that scene. So that was a very special experience. And it was a very, very hot day. So we did sit underneath. There's lots of lovely trees you can sit under. So we sat under trying to eat rapidly melting ice cream because it was really, really hot. Yeah. But again, and that's actually to go to Highclere, there are quite a few tours that you can take from London to get there. Alternatively, you can take the train to Newbury. I think, yes. And get a taxi to Highclere. But again, if you're driving, it's an easy one to is make sure that you booked your tickets, that you can get into the car park there and do the tour that day. So highly recommend that one. And
there's a very good gift shop there as well with lots of related.
Oh yes, I bought lots and lots of Downton Abbey merchandise for my friends in Australia who are also fans. So our fourth one, we're back up to Scotland again. I feel like we're going England, Scotland. So our fourth one is actually a place that we stayed in. And it was a glamping pod that we chose to stay in the night before we caught the ferry to the Orkney Islands. So we'd been doing the North Coast 500 route, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But we decided to try something a little bit different for ourselves, and that was to book something, a glamping pod. Actually, there was not a huge amount of accommodation to choose from in that particular area, but it really appealed, and we loved it.
Yeah, again, it ticked a lot of boxes because we're catching the early morning ferry to the Orkneys, and so this place was about 40 minutes away, I think, 40, 50 minutes away. And it was off the main road, and it was just unbelievable. It was so different to what we expected. There was a guy running the pods, looking after them. He was like a farmer, and he was just so helpful. Just could not do enough for us. He had another little coach wagon, full of all bits and pieces you could buy that you might need, and it was just an honesty box for everything. Yeah. And there was another young couple there as well. We chatted to them, and then there was wildlife all around us.
There was deer everywhere, wasn't there? Absolutely, just deer. And the next day when we drove, we had to catch the you're gonna laugh at this. We had to drive to catch the ferry from Gills Bay over to the Orkneys, and literally every bend that we went past, there was just a huge herd of deer. And every time I get my phone to record, there'll be nothing, and then I put my phone down and go around, and there'd be a huge herd of deer. So I have absolutely no footage of this, but it was incredible. I've never seen so many deer in my life. And in fact, the night before, while we were sitting in the glamping pod, there were deer in the fields around us.
All around us, that's right.
So that was a Wee Hoos glamping pod. I will put a link to that. So if you plan to do the North Coast 500 and you're going to do that route, we'd highly recommend to stay there.
And if you want something a little bit different to your run-of-the-mill hotel rooms, recommend.
Absolutely. So I'm going to hand over to Doug completely for number 5, because this is something I didn't experience.
For number 5, I went to Anfield. And those of you know your English football, or soccer, as some people call it, Liverpool Football Club is the best football team on the planet. I am slightly biased, but no, the whole experience, we managed to get to Anfield with a good friend of ours, Mark, who's also appreciates good football, and we went up to watch Liverpool play in a pre-season friendly game. Okay, they lost, unfortunately, but the whole experience, we just had a great afternoon, great evening. We did.
Yeah.
And it was just somewhere I always want to go back to, because the atmosphere of the ground, the Liverpool fans are famous for their singing and the support of the team.
So obviously, if we've got football supporters in our Facebook group as well, and obviously probably listen to this podcast as well. So, if you do arrive out of season, there are quite a few of the grounds do offer tours of the grounds. Trying to get tickets for Premiership matches, football matches can be quite difficult. But again, I've got an article on the website which I'll link to, which kind of talks about that, about how the best places to kind of source tickets for Premiership matches.
Yeah, because the atmosphere is really, really fantastic. Something a little bit different. Even if you're not a huge football fan, I could definitely recommend going to. Because it's a good afternoon, good evening.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're going to go back up to Scotland again. And our 6th choice was actually the North Coast 500 drive, which is a scenic, very famous now, scenic drive around the north coast of Scotland. Hence it's called the North Coast 500. It starts in Inverness and ends in Inverness. And we joined it we came off the Isle of Skye and we kind of joined the road there. The first part of it that we did was quite infamous Applecross, which I didn't drive. I think I sat silently screaming while Doug drove it. It is a road that is closed in the winter because the roads are basically treacherous. Yeah. So, you drove that, didn't you?
Yeah, it's pretty hair-raising, but I'm quite a slow, steady driver, and I am obviously familiar with driving on the left. But everybody was courteous, taking it really slowly, but it's worth it. The scenery is just breathtaking.
Yeah, and again, I've not got much video of this because most of the time I had my eyes shut.
And she did exactly the same when there was a few deers crossing in front of us. And she missed them every single time.
Yeah, well, that's how it is. I will get better with my taking videos, I think. But But yeah, Applecross was amazing. The whole North Coast 500. The one thing I think I learned from it, because we did it in a short period of time, is that I would take longer. I think we spent maybe 3 days doing it. I would put that out to a week and really explore it and really enjoy it. The roads, I mean, we were there in May. There were lambs all over, weren't there? There were so many lambs.
Yeah, and that's right. There's so many places to stop, and it's just wall to wall, fantastic scenery. And obviously, you could keep stopping permanently; you would not get very far.
I think, to be honest, that it kind of blew my mind a bit because I'd never seen scenery like that. And I love Glencoe in the Scottish Highlands, but going that further north, it's incredible. The scenery is just, it was like being in another world. It really was really very, very special, and highly recommend it if you've got the time and you want to do a driving trip around Scotland, that you do incorporate the North Coast 500 in. Okay, obviously like spring, summertime, I wouldn't recommend doing it out of those seasons, because probably from March time, but you'd have to check the weather forecast, because those roads, we're talking single file roads, you have to pull over, that there are stopping zones and you kind of pull in. So you've got to be aware of kind of, your surroundings and careful when you're driving.
There's lots of passing places, but some of the passing places, there's not much clearance after you pull in, particularly if there's a camper van coming in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and there was
you've got to be patient. That's the name of the game.
Quite interesting kind of drops. Yeah. So that was. So we're going to stay in Scotland for number 7. So we're actually going to talk about the Isle of Skye. So the Isle of Skye in itself is an experience, honestly, and somewhere we really highly recommend that you visit. It is very touristy, it is very popular, but it is a reason, because it is magnificent. We did not have the best weather when we were there, but it didn't really matter. We just thoroughly enjoyed it. And again, I'm going back to accommodation. There's lots of different accommodation options on Skye, but we decided that we wanted to stay in a guest house, bed and breakfast, and we stayed at the Loch Air guest house, which is on Loch Air. But what was special about it was the lounge area. Yeah,
it was so social. It was the couple running the guest house. They were incredibly welcoming. Yes. They could not do enough for everyone. Things like washing, which becomes an issue when you're travelling around, but they actively encourage people to ask and help.
Yeah.
But they had one. It was like a lounge area, and we just had some fantastic. We lost hours in there.
Yeah.
We did. Because there's people from so many different countries. There was Americans, there was Canadians, Germans. There was a Dutch couple and a few Scottish people, and then us being English.
Yeah.
But it was such common ground. Everybody talked about the travel experiences, not just in Scotland, but all around the world. It was just such a shared.
It was really lovely communal area, and especially being out in the day and then to sit and have a drink and a chat in the evening. So that was a real highlight, actually. And also the views from there were stunning. So we've actually been talking about next summer's travel, and we have talked about Skye, and we will absolutely go back there again. It wasn't too far out of Portree, but in a beautiful area. So highly recommend it. And I say the couple who are running it, fantastic, amazing. If you hear this podcast, we absolutely loved it. So thanks so much for our stay. So actually now I'm going to go on to number 8, which is again accommodation. It's funny, isn't it? Some accommodations really stood out. And we, again, alternative, I guess, is we stayed on a shepherd's hut on Bodmin Moor in Cornwall. Now, this was a fantastic experience because we're on the moor, which again is a very different landscape. But
you weren't sure about that when we're talking about it initially, were you?
No, I wasn't sure. I was like,
it was a bit bleak and a bit.
I thought it was going to be a bit bleak, but it's not. It was beautiful. Yeah. Again, just there was ferns everywhere, and there's wild ponies.
The sunrise and the sunsets were staggering.
Yeah, and there's wild ponies. So, the sunsets and sunrises are great. Again, you're driving over the moor. There's the wild ponies, and we'll say that a third time, which I just thought were lovely. Obviously, they're wild, so you don't go near them. But again, just having that experience, I say that you felt kind of immersed in it and surrounded by it. And also, I think it's pretty good for dark skies for photography.
Of course. I mean, the reason we chose Bodmin was because it was a central area in Cornwall.
Yeah.
So when we decided on the places we're going to visit all around Cornwall, it just seemed like a perfect choice, and it just again ticked the boxes for us. And it was the shepherd's hut was so different to the glamping pod,
yeah,
equally small but different.
Yeah,
and well equipped.
Oh yeah,
everything was there.
Yeah,
and a little bit isolated, but that's just what we wanted at that point.
Yeah, we did want that little bit of kind of time, and you got that. You could come back. We spent most of our days out anyway exploring, but when you came back, it was lovely. And obviously, one of the advantages of travel in the UK in the summer months is that it's very late. It's very light, very late in the day. So, you have a lot of hours of daylight. So you can still be sitting there, hop aside 10 o'clock and it's daylight. So that was, really good. It was a really good actual base to explore Cornwall too. So number 9 is something that we'd never done before, and it's in London, which was a photo shoot. So it's the first time we're going to mention anything in London, was a photo shoot with Dommy of Scaling Studio, who I talked to in episode 16 of the podcast. So Dommy talks all about how she does her photo shoots in London and how you can book them. And she invited us to do a photo shoot with her. And we had so much fun. Oh,
it's just unbelievable. I was quite nervous. I'll be honest, it was like sitting in an exam beforehand. I thought, I'm not very photogenic, and people who know me know how shy I am. And it was just not... I was totally unprepared.
Yeah.
But, like Tracy said, we had such a good laugh. Dommy was just so relaxing and very patient, particularly with me. And... it was just
so much fun and so good at making us feel relaxed and enjoy it. And obviously she knows the parts of London and the best places to go to have your photos taken. And a wonderful memory of our trip, because we had some lovely photos taken, and, we're going to get 1 or 2 of them put on canvas. And I cannot wait to go back next year and have another photo shoot in different areas. And in fact, I've just booked my daughter on. She won't know this, but I've booked her on a Christmas photo shoot this year because she's back over in London with her partner. So, yeah, just an absolutely fantastic experience to do. A really great memories to have. Dommy will, if you're a bit nervous about having a photo shoot, she will make you feel relaxed and she will take fabulous photos.
She's a very nice person and just loves what she does as well. Makes it even easier.
She does. Yeah. And all right, so number 10 actually is... this is something I didn't go with Doug to this, but I thought, rather than me talk about all my kind of favourites, that he wanted to choose some himself. So I actually sat in Wimbledon, listening or watching the tennis for the day in a pub with some friends while Doug went down to Dover.
So I wanted a train fix on my own, to be honest. So leave Tracy talking and drinking. No, I didn't say that. And drinking. But I wanted a train journey, and the logical place I wanted to go wasn't too far away, was to see the White Cliffs of Dover. And I could not have picked a better day. It was hot, sunny, and beautiful blue skies. And so I caught the train back into London, and then I went from London down to Dover, and it's a very easy journey. And then I went to the furthest point by taxi to the lighthouse, and then I walked every single path that there is on the White Cliffs area there, down towards the visitor centre. Before I set off, though, in the windmill, lighthouse, I had to have a cup of tea and some Victoria sponge, which I do like.
Yes.
So it was just unbelievable. The footpaths are a little bit difficult in places because there's a lot of uphill and downhills, and it's quite loose gravel. But the views and the photos I took were pretty good. Yeah,
well, excellent. You showed some pictures, and you got some people walking along the way as well, taking photos. You asked them, or they asked you, didn't they? So.
Yes, it seemed to be the way that particularly people walking on their own is very social. Take photos of, each other and videos that people want. Yeah, it's very nice.
So it's really good. So that we've kind of covered 10 different experiences. We've got from a train trip to a castle to 3 types of accommodation that we really enjoyed. Yes, and the photo shoot. So quite a few different.
That's right, different things. We could easily do another 10 as well, because there's just so many elements of the whole trip that we just thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, very easily. If I start sitting, I'm going to start thinking, well, actually, the trip to Vindolanda and walking, part of the Hadrian's Wall was another highlight. I mean, honestly, the trip over to Paris and the Eurostar, taking the Eurostar is always great fun. We really enjoy that. Lots of we had a lovely tour around the Houses of Parliament in London, which again was just fascinating.
And just York again, many times we've been to York, and every single time it's just special.
Yeah,
so special.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and then punting along the River Cam in Cambridge again would be. Honestly, we could do another 10 without really thinking about it. But those were the ones that kind of sprung out at us as our main ones. In fact, actually, I'm going to add a bonus one, number 11, and I'm going to put that trip down the River Cam in Cambridge punting, because I'd never done that before. And again, we were very lucky this last summer that the weather was spectacular. And that was great because you see all the backs of, it's called the backs, I think you see all the backs of all the colleges, which is a great way to do it. And then you go into some of the famous bridge, like the mathematical bridge.
The guy who does the punting, I don't know what do you call somebody who does the punt?
I don't know. Punter?
Is he a punter? He was so knowledgeable, wasn't he? He was a good storyteller. He really, really made it fun as well, didn't he?
Yeah. So much for the top 10. I've kind of given you
the top 11.
Top 11 now. But anyway, thanks for listening to that. I'm sure if you've got you've been to the UK and you've got some of the experiences that you want to talk about, why not pop over and join our UK and London travel planning Facebook community? That's a mouthful. And come over and share that, because we love talking about, we're talking about planning our trips to the UK, but also sharing our experiences and knowledge of the things that we've really enjoyed when we've been traveling around.
Yep. Share your experiences. They may be different to ours.
Yeah, and we're always looking for more inspiration. Everybody's looking for more travel inspiration. Come on and tell us what it is that you really, really loved about your experiences traveling around the UK. You can find the links to all the places that we discussed in today's show notes at uktravelplanning.com /episode 21. Thanks so much for listening. If you want other resources and information, do check those out on our website, which is again at uktravelplanning.com. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do leave a review and a rating on your favorite podcast app. Until next week, I think that just leaves us to both say happy UK travel planning. Happy UK travel planning from both of us. Bye for now.
Bye.